We up, we up, we up. We up, we up, we up.
And I'm on. I'm on. I'm
And we up,
on.
we up, we up.
Up, 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 up.
What's good with it? What's good with it? What's good with it? We back with
What's
another episode
good?
of the More Than Podcast with the birthday girl today, Keish Erday.
Now let me stop. I came up here like, now let me stop. Hey,
Uh-huh. How does it feel?
it's my birthday.
Another ancient year older.
Not ancient. But
Uh-huh.
yes, I am truly blessed. I am honored. I am thankful. And I am grateful to be here. I
Uh-huh.
mean, yes. Happy birthday to me.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
And it's your boy Chef Boy Basquiat. And yeah. So how do you want to kick this off? How do you feel like you want to kick this off today? I know what I'm gonna talk about, and we'll get into that later after you.
Well, just basically we about to flip it and rewind it real quick. I just wanted to take it back a little bit, in case we have any new subscribers or, new viewers. I just want them to basically know why and how, just what made you want to start the More Than podcast. Just a rewind and a reflection on.
So what originally made me want to start just the More Than Podcast or just the podcast?
The More Than podcast.
Okay,
Because
so
that's what it's been since you've been.
yeah. So
Okay.
originally it just started out and it's the same goal, but it evolved. It's really just my goal is to mentor and inform the youth and really anybody that listens. But more so on a personal level is to really just pour me and grow in the eyes of the world. And when I was thinking about it, when you had asked, when we was talking about what was on my mind at the time, when I was excited for the week, I told you I wanted to die in front of the world. And then I compared it to how God died in front of the world not God, Jesus died on the cross in front of the world. And I was like, if he can die on the cross, why can't I die in front of the world and be vulnerable in front of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I want to do is just show that men can be vulnerable in the world. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. That's
So yeah.
Perfect point. Perfect point. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, but so like as far as your audience or your what are you trying to reach? Instead of, not instead of, but since you're putting yourself out there fully, what type of audience or what are you trying to pull in to the
What
podcast? Like what
um
what are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to reach? What's your audience that you're trying to reach? Or is it just for every and anybody, whoever?
in particular, who I'm trying to reach is just the young black male youth. That's who I'm actually really wanting to reach. And then after that, I mean, if anybody take anything from anything, then that'd be great too. You know what I mean?
Yes. Okay, that sounds good. And let me see, I'm going off my notes. So if y'all see me looking over to the side, I have me some little notes wrote down. I think last but not least, are there any changes you're going to make, willing to make, or to progress the podcast, or as far as will you be making any changes? Will there be any changes anytime soon? And if
Um,
so, can you elaborate on the possibility of whatever changes you're wanting to make to improve the More Than podcast?
to just well, I'll answer the question. I know what you mean. So as far as what direction I want to go, as far as the More Than and not just particularly the podcast, I want to eventually make the More Than be a network. That way it can be the name that I intended to be, because the More Than podcast is because everybody is more than just one thing. I don't like for people to think you can box yourself into an area. Mm-hmm. So eventually the network, I know I just recently started thinking, since I'm always into sports, I'm talking about sports, XYZ, critiquing sports. I want to launch a sports, either talk show, podcast, whatever. And that'll come whenever I find the people that I feel like is actually great for that. Earlier I had joked about you making your book, which I'm serious about. I hope to launch that, and hopefully I can be in that and be under the imprint of the More Than podcast. I know I want to do a book. I know I eventually want to it's a lot. I know I eventually want to get into skits, because I always got crazy things in my head, but it's more so, rather than it being funny, I want to just be my artsy self, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot. A whole network. That's my goal.
That's good to know. Well, I just wanted to kind of rewind it back just to see, give everybody a refresher on what the podcast is mainly about, what it's going to be about, what it's willing to, go through the change and growth. So
let me ask you this.
Elaborating on that.
So let me ask you this, since you asked about the podcast, which just popped into my head. So with you jumping onto the podcast, what are some of your goals from either within it or separate in yourself from it? What are your goals? And yeah, I put you on the spot.
Well, being in it, my goals are, just opening up to me, opening up personally, because really I was not a social person as far as being outward publicly. Mm-hmm. So I'm also just, wanting to help you grow, because, my son, I would, we can, elaborate on a lot of things, because we keep things kind of, open when we're talking about things that are really realities in life and all those good things. So just hoping it helps anybody like from your age range, my age range, older, in any type of way. So just, use it as a teaching tool, also, as well as teaching myself as I go along with. And then, yeah, it's a helpful tool for me, and then hopefully for me to extend out to others.
Yeah.
Including getting my book together under the wraps,
Yeah, whenever you start writing it.
Right.
But
yeah.
Yeah, no. So I know what's on my mind, what's been on my mind all week, and it was from just a little catch up from my week. Mm-hmm. Of course, we both know car troubles. So I got to spend some quality time with my mama, even though I didn't want to. You probably liked it. You probably loved it. You probably enjoyed it.
Of course I did.
But the reason why I say I really didn't want to be over there is because I don't like to be in Kansas, y'all. So so I was just like, I don't want to deal with that. So anyways, within hanging out with my mama, we went over my sisters. And anyways, me and her always joking, picking fun, Mm-hmm. And whenever I be messing with her, she always be like, "Oh, I'm gonna call, or I'm gonna contact Duke." Right? My last situation. And she goes, and I go, "Well, all right, have fun with that." And then she was like, "Don't act like you don't care." And I'm like, "Dog, I really don't care." And then she was like, you miss Duke. And I just be like, "Nah, I don't." Right? Because I'm firm on it. I know I don't. So anyways, I wasn't thinking nothing of it or whatever. Not. I guess it wasn't on my mind, but I guess it was in my subconscious, obviously, right? Because then, like the next day, I'm just sleep dreaming, and I'm having a dream, and this person in my dream, and I wake up and just like a lot of anxiety in the middle of the night, and I'm just like, why am I having a dream about this person? So then I just shrug it off, like, oh, all right. So then the next night, having another dream with this person in there, and I'm just like, I said, I'm like, God, why you messing with me in my sleep? Like waking me up at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So then I'm just like, I don't miss this individual, right? And I've been made up in my mind, like the only thing that I do miss is just the body, the physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then within understanding, like, what do I miss about that person physically, right? And it's just like
Mm-hmm.
most of the general affection that wasn't what I used for my running away from the world. It was just like either a depression in a lot of areas, rather it's just like hugs and kisses and stuff like that. Like I felt depression in it, but it's just like
Mm-hmm.
those emotions are what I'm used to seeing and receiving and feeling. So I found comfort in the darkness, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned to accept, like, oh, well, okay, this is what this is, whatever won't, right?
Yeah.
So I was just like, dang. And I was irritated. I'm like, how let this little girl trigger me like this? I'm like, this shouldn't even be that serious, right? So then I'm just like, all right, that ain't nothing. Well, and I was like, nah, it is something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just I really don't know more of why I am, no pun intended. I don't know more. I don't know why, like the deeper end of why it was affecting me. I just know in that area that it's not a place of comfort that I want to, like I've been said, I don't want to go back to it. So I don't miss the person, right?
Okay.
I probably miss the fabrication and lies that I created in that situation, but I don't miss that. You know what I mean?
You don't miss the person in general, but just the physical. That's what you're basically boiling down to.
Not
But now it's not even the physical, it's just like the separation of it. And it's coming back up to make sure and see if that's really what you mean what you say. Is that what you're saying?
nah, I know I mean what I say, but I
Or
guess
mean how you feel?
I guess the timing of all of it all, it was like, oh, okay, I know I'm separated from this, and I was really getting separated from it to where it was a distant thought, right?
Okay.
And we know how to perfectly time whenever we mess with one another to have us stuck in thought. So it was just
Mm-hmm.
like, you little rascal, you.
So, yeah,
So
but it's
yeah,
at the same token, it probably was just, like people still wanna once you see somebody, I'll say like this, once you see someone like in relationship or so-called in love, uh, you just still question it. No matter if the person is not around physically, you still try to question it just to see where somebody's either head or heart is. So
but
that's probably
nah,
where.
hey, I ain't like it, but I know I'd be making digs at her to probably be having her in it. So but
Mhm.
also, y'all, I forgot to put my trigger warning at the beginning of this because I got lost in it. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, but just to piggyback off of why I say like it's an area of lies within finding comfort in what should be enjoyable affectional moments, and like when I explain like, oh yeah, the hugs are XYZ, it feel like depression, right? And then I even told you, well, recently told you, like when I told you like, yeah, da 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 da, she was like, I'm gonna send you a voice note rather than text because I don't want to get lost in translation. And for me, I got startled because I'm like, yo, dog, I don't want to hear your voice because it makes me feel depressed, right? It triggers me in a way to where I feel depressed,
Okay.
right? And it's just
Mhm.
like I can understand and see why so long it's just like, oh, okay, like people look like, oh, I was happy in it, right? And it's just like, well, piggybacking off what I said last week, like not understanding truly healthy love, right? And it's just like it put me in a spot of correlating and understanding and looking at my history, right? Rather, like both parents,
Mhm.
and it started to make me think about my dad, right? And just his
Yeah.
journey and his search for love and his quest for love, and you know,
Mhm.
so I started to really think on that layer too, from when I was having them dreams all week. And I'm just like, dog, I'm like, what about that situation? So then when I started to think about my daddy, I'm just like, yo, dog, it's a lot of things in that. I'm like, you got to see him grind hard and try to create his foundation of love that he's been seeking around him,
Mhm.
right? and I keep saying
You
but
know what I know.
anyways, we know
Yeah.
how he basically jeopardized everything to try to build and grasp and make his foundation his temple of love, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then in the
Basically.
end, it was still watching this person yearning for love and not achieving it, right? Not getting
Right.
really what he wanted,
Right.
and not not receiving what he poured out, right?
Right.
So it was just like, in looking at that, I could see how I can lie to myself for years, right? I can.
Or let me just say this. Even with that being said, some parts of the love was slowly being taken away from him in
Yeah.
different aspects. So that's another. Not so much that he just lost it all, like,
Well, now
but it
we,
was
yeah, I plan on breaking it down more. I'm just, I'm easing into it. But yeah, so
okay.
it
Okay,
was
not
like
bad.
it was like in looking at that grand scheme, because I definitely got a chance to break all of it down. So just looking at, I'm like, yeah, I can see how I can just be like, oh, well, okay, I can endure until I can get my love, right? I can endure until I, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, then within thinking of it even more, in like, I was like, dang, can I leave this situation and just overall be mad at an individual for me not getting what I want to get, right?
Mhm.
And I was just like, nah, I'm not mad about any of the situation. Right? And it's funny to say, but it's like, I'm trying to remember where I'm going. Where am I at?
Take a deep breath and yeah,
Nah,
you
I'm
got it.
composed. It's just I know I'm trying to go on a journey and explain it better.
Yeah. Jump back into how like building the
Oh
foundation,
yeah. So
and then
just the
you
found.
had to look at it at his, like, from his point of view.
Oh yeah. And then even stealing out most of that, which is probably why I don't like the voice side of it all. It's just like, for me to be so vulnerable and the focus be my past, and you don't understand my past, understand where I come from, right? And me understanding and
Mhm.
seeing where I come from, and seeing and knowing what the quest of really wanting to be loved looks like. And I,
Mhm.
I probably it was just me, and that's where I was going. Probably some of it was me and me still searching for my identity, right? Which I still correlated to, like, I correlated and looked at my daddy and him having, and I explained it to you, having half of his identity when he was locked up, taken away from him, right?
Sorry, that's the
They coming for you.
emergency.
They coming for you.
It's an
Nah,
emergency
so
here.
yeah. And I was telling you, like, yeah, it was a time from what, when did he get locked up? When I was in going to seventh grade. And for me, it was just like, yo, dog, all right, the person that I really identified in is gone. All right. What is my identity, right?
Mhm.
And for so long of me searching for that and me trying to figure out who I am, won't.
Okay, take that back. Take that word "gone" back. He was just away. He was
Yeah,
away.
he was. Well, yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, away.
I just wanted to change the words. I mean, I'm sorry. Just I just want to say
Away.
just like
So
gone.
yeah,
No, he was
so
away.
just growing up through my adolescence and having to search for my identity and finding information and forming myself, and then going through a road of, once again, not caring about myself, and then getting into my situation and still working out and not caring about myself, and then re-finding myself in the situation, right? I could see how that could have caused a rift or whatever, not right. So when I was understanding, like, oh, so yeah, that's what it is. She also triggered me because, she questioned, like, my grieving process. That's what I'm getting into all of this.
Okay.
And this, and when I say she, this is my little sister. She had questioned the grieving process, and I'm just like, nah, I just know what
You
you want to
sped
ask.
up.
I
You
did
sped
speed up.
up. You sped up from you was. That's when you was like you looked up to him when he was taken away. When he was away, and then you want to go. So basically, what you want to wrap it around to before you jump into that segment.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to go back and speak from the times that he was away to the times of coming back to, coming back to physically,
Oh
basically
yeah. So
coming back
I mean,
before
that
you
was just
jump
a
into
journey.
that.
I have an understanding of myself. I just didn't understand. Let me say. I feel like in the long run of it all, I started to feel less of myself a lot of the times. I started like questioning myself a lot of the times. Like I always knew who I was. I knew what I wanted to be, XYZ, but I wasn't confident to stand out on those things, right? Because at that at that age, it was like, all right, well, I want to be like my daddy. Da, 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 da. He like a stand-up dude, right? In my eyes at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, all right. So then with them being in this situation, being suppressed and not talking for so long, not expressing myself outwardly, it was just like, all right, I didn't say a lot of things that I really did disagree with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say a lot of things that I should have said.
Yeah.
So it was just like, all right, I can identify that now as just me not feeling confident in myself and not fully understanding who and what I am and not gonna take. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just all on that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But yeah, nah. So then it started also making me think about that when Brianna had, questioned that. And I was just like, in
Yeah,
my
when it
mind,
was brought to when it was
yeah,
brought to your attention that your sister was like, well, you grieve different than what she's grieving different, but in
yeah,
reality, y'all don't know how much each other is grieving and or still grieving, if that makes sense.
yeah. And for me, in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't gotta explain myself to nobody. Um, but nah, it made me think, which maybe we should have had that conversation. Maybe I should have extended her that conversation and understand it. But for me, it was just like I found comfort in being like, well, all right, he can rest now. He ain't got to seek for that love, right? Excuse me, because like within me having anger with my father for at that time after getting out, right? Because for me, it was like for me when I was getting my superhero back, I was what was that 2017, right? 2016ish.
Yeah, but your Brie came out 2017,
So what was I 20, 19, 20?
about 21,
So yeah, it was just like,
about
well,
20. Yeah, 20 going on 21.
yeah. So for me, it
You
was
had
just
a
like,
Yeah, I wrote on your card. Remember, thank you. 21.
yeah. So for me, I was just like, all right, he back. We about to, all right. Like, I'm like, are we about to pick off from where we was at that time? Like, just like it just always felt fly being with my daddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking at a narrow mind on him just jumping back from where he was at. I ain't think about the tolls of being incarcerated. I ain't think about the tolls of him not being able to grieve. You get what I mean? Like I ain't pay attention to all the traumatic stuff that he went through. And I was just thinking about me and then also my expectations of how I felt like he should just pick up since Brianna was in her last year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So from looking at that and me breaking down that and me being like, well, I really ain't got no right to be angry. Like this dude is going through whatever he doing, right? And I always just thought like, yeah, all right, I understand that my issue is currently the drinking, right? That's the thing that I just didn't want to be around with him is just the drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just like, all right, if I see him, I'm like every time I used to see him after that, I would just assume like he been drinking, and I was like, I don't want to
Yeah,
be around him.
yeah, you would know. It
So
wasn't hard to tell.
so when all of that went down, it was just easy for me to be like, he don't have to drink himself into a place of being like, all right, I can deal with the world. All right, I can deal with the loss that I didn't get to really be there for. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then also going back to the whole identity thing, like when it was just him from when I was younger, it was him and his brother, and he was like he would always be with his brother whenever he really wanted to kick it, right? That was his other half. That was his running mate.
Mm-hmm.
So from his scars and XYZ won't and all the traumatic stuff that and I'm saying traumatic because I already know, I feel and understand, and was partially told because y'all y'all tiptoed around the childhood things that y'all didn't want for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I also got to grow up and see, like, well, okay, I understand how I feel in this situation coming from grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the understanding and hearing and tidbitting and getting information, it was just like, well, all right, you have traumatic things of feeling like your family was incomplete, and you got told a lot of angry things about your father that you probably still had grudges about. You get what I mean? And that
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't even your grudges to be had.
Right.
Right. So he had those things. So of course his manly figure was his brother, right? That was who he identified as being a man through, right? So within being away and losing his figure, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It helps me understand, like, yo, that took a toll on him too. And
Oh yeah.
he didn't get a chance to really break that down. And I don't know if he really wanted to break that down, right? I don't think he had the tools to
He
break
probably
that down.
couldn't process. He probably couldn't process it. He couldn't. I'm gonna just say I'm not speaking for him, but I just know for sure he could not process losing his best friend, like
Yeah.
his role model.
Yeah.
His, like you say. But all I'm saying is, no, it wasn't like a when you got to think about when he was confined, no loved ones around him then,
Yeah.
hearing this and then getting out and seeing like this, like, whoa, he's physically not like,
Yeah.
I'm home and he's not here. So I mean, you can't ever know what's going on in a person's head, but you can kind of figure because he didn't want to show that hurt in
Yeah.
front of
Yeah. Which I told
his
you.
mom, his his children, but for himself, I'm for sure when he was alone or dealing with, oh yeah, I mean, whatever can silence the cries. But like I said again,
Yeah.
I've seen him cry, but that still wasn't a full out mourn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Nah. And I think a lot of the times, which yeah, lately, like, a lot of things have been irritating me because this is derailing from, it's in the same vein. I'm gonna get to it, but a lot of things in my situation and the perception of it is irritating me, right? Because, like, I'm a person to where, like, if there's strife and anything going on personal, like, ain't no reason for, if we can work on it, to talk about it before,
mm-hmm,
like, to talk about it and make one another look away in public rather than actually working on those things. You get what I mean? So a lot
mm-hmm,
of the times it was just like, well, dang, he ain't got no complaints. You get what I mean? And it's only sounding like a one-way complaint. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? So it was a
mm-hmm,
lot of times of me looking like a bad guy. But for so long, it's just like the perception of a stand-up dude, right? And for the longest, like, and which was probably why I didn't understand emotions. Looking at my superhero and him just being like, seeming like everything is all right. He giving off that aura of, I'm strong, I'm going through it, whatever. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna figure it out.
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
And I was telling you, I'm like, dog, I'm like, when he got out, it was many of questions I wanted to ask him. But my biggest question I wanted to ask him is like, dog, when you was in there, was there ever a time like you was scared? Like, was you scared like of anything, right?
mm-hmm,
And I could never bring myself to ask him that because I'm like, dog, if I ask my superhero this, that, like, ask him if he was scared, and he look at me and say, yeah, I was scared. How would I
mm-hmm,
feel about my superhero telling me he was scared in a moment in time, right?
mm-hmm.
Because then it would make me question, like, I know I've been scared in many areas, but I never showed it, right? So in
Right.
hearing him saying it, would it make me be like, well, that's all right to be scared, which I understand it's all right to be scared,
Mm-hmm.
or will it make me go, like, I don't know what it would have made me do. It was just more so of, I was afraid to hear him say
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So within all of that and understanding and imagining an understanding of the pain that he was currently going through, that's what made it easier for me to be like, all right, he can rest now. He ain't gotta search for that love that he wasn't receiving and that he wanted, right? and that he wasn't going to get from the people that he wanted to get it from, that he truly wanted to seek it from. That I'm not going to say that bridged past, but you can't. I don't feel like he could have mended those scars. It was just Band-Aids, and those Band-Aids wasn't helping.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm gonna just say it like this, just to elaborate on it. I just feel, since we are speaking on the topic, it's like when you try and build your foundation and then something happens along the way, and then you come back to a shaky foundation, like it's hanging on by one string, one brick, whatever you want to build it. And then for you to tiptoe on it and not try to break what's left in any type of way, and still hold that demeanor of, hey, I'm cool, I got my shield on, I'm strong, I can get through anything, I ain't gonna let nobody see on the outside what's going on really on the inside type deal. It was just like, when you cover up pain in different ways, and how, because everybody cover up pain in different ways, whether that be drinking or just whatever it may be. But I just feel like, where was I going with this? I just feel like your dad still knew the relationships he had with individuals, meaning his children, his family, you know what I'm saying, the people that were still around at that time. Because even when anybody else look at him through their eyes, besides our eyes, they still see, okay, this guy ain't changed. It's still the same dude, because he held it so strong, So, but they can still see the hurt, see the hurt that he was trying to suppress and get by. And that, I know that's one reason why you say, okay, I look at it like, okay, yeah, that's why I put some of that into my way of, I guess, living and being.
That's another thing. Like, that was another thing, like, that I found myself getting angry with, which I didn't say this to you, but I know it and I was thinking it, right? Mm-hmm. So within being in that whole identity, right, of him getting torn away, him going to jail, right, in the 7th grade, and me slowly being like, well, who am I? And going on that journey of figuring out who I am, right? And you know how people's favorite thing to say, oh, either you sound like your daddy or wow, right? And the comparisons, right? And either of them not knowing the separation, which it was me how can I say it? Just me and the beef me and my daddy had, right? Mm-hmm. And it being like, dang, I'm getting tired of them comparing me to this dude. Like, me understanding what I don't want to be, me seeing what I see negative in him, and them just being like, oh, you remind me of him, right? And me going through me figuring myself out, I'm just like, yo, dog, I'm getting tired of y'all comparing me to somebody that I don't want to be like in these negative ways. So it made me resent my name and myself for the longest, which is why I can understand why I was going through why I don't care about myself phase, right? Mm-hmm. So that was the only thing. Like, I was just like, dang, I always wondered why I really went hard in, like, I'm not caring about myself.
Yeah. At times people, such as you, whoever, people can hold these angry, selfish, like, people become selfish when things actually don't go the way that they think they should go, if that makes sense. It's like, that's just like you saying, like, hey, our whole father-son deal should have been something different, when you got to always look at, like, okay, what it was, you know what I'm saying? Because when things change, it's going to be changed, but it's just all about how you accept it. So it's either you leave with anger with it, or you leave with some type of closure to make you just feel like, okay, who am I to judge?
Hey, I think that's another thing, though. I think Rihanna think overall we just had just a beef, and I wasn't talking to him, which I wasn't talking to him, but it was more so like I've been forgave him for any of the things that I felt. Mm-hmm. It was just that I understood that I didn't want to be around him, because I was just like, well, all right, he got an addiction, right? And to go deeper than that, I know that, And an addiction is just people either running from numbing themselves up to live in the world, or running from the world, right? And I was like, dang, I got an addiction that I like to, like, if anytime that I feel like either the world is being too much for me, my addiction is my lustful nature, right? It's expressing and relieving myself sexually, right? So within seeing that, I'm just like, all right, well, he got an addiction. I know I got my addiction. And knowing, like, anytime you got two addicts that try to coexist in the same realm and they see one addict giving into their other, like giving into their addiction, that can cause relapse. And I don't want to be in a perpetual cycle of running away from the world, right?
Yeah.
So I eliminated myself from that. I chose not to be around those things like that. So anytime I'm around anything that I'm just like, well, all right, I don't want to be around this because that people, you know. So I'm just like, all right, I'll eliminate myself from that. And then when I started to understand that for myself in my situation with Duke, and not being heard on the sense of me not wanting to be around something and being judged for not wanting to be around it, it caused resentment there, because it's just like, well, all right, dog, you just not trying to understand me. You just, you know what I mean? Just to draw a correlation to that. And yeah, so it was just it's a lot of things that this girl opened up in my mind in that short amount of time. It was just like, dang, it's a lot of things that I either freshly just, well, obviously freshly just figured it out. And it just layered on top of layer on top of layer. And yeah.
So basically, what you mean to tell me is, since you wanted to basically, you wasn't comparing yourself, but
nah, it's
comparing of why, like, what's to numb things and dealing with how to love, what is love.
Nah, well, to keep
love? But you numb down what you actually are faced with. Whether it's something tragic, you numb yourself in whatever situation. Look at you like, come on, mama, say it.
But, nah, I'm listening.
It's just like the numbness part of it. Like, it's just like to cover up whatever is hurting. Whatever is hurting, like.
Well, nah,
inward.
just
dealing with, I guess I should say.
Well, nah, because I know I guess you can call it suppression, but I don't speak on things a lot of the times, right? And it's weird that it's a lot of things that I can draw parallels from and I can give understanding into, right? And compare traumas and my trauma from my childhood and see how it made it to where I could just live through something that you obviously know and see is dying. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I put up with a lot because I'm used to things dying. You know what I mean? And that's the word dying in this situation is metaphorical. But it's like a lot of times I wasn't realistic or honest with myself in that situation. Like, that should have been over.
Yeah.
So it's like that little girl opened up she opened up a Pandora's box in my mind, and it was just like, I'm angry with her, but I'm happy that it happened in the time in which it happened, because it's like, all right, you gave me time to answer and really want to speak on a lot of things that I probably would have never spoke on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, I mean, she'll bring it out of you. I mean, like I say again, I mean, that goes back to the trigger. What triggers you and what makes you, instead of getting angry at it, you look at it from a different perspective. Like, okay, why do this keep coming around? Why does this keep being asked? Or just going back to like, okay, why are they saying I sound like my daddy? Or
no, I know why they say it, but it was more so a uncomfortability because, I mean, in the past, I'm sure it would have been a time like, oh, well, all right, you compared me to my superhero, but in me not seeing him in that light no more, it's just like, dog, stop comparing me to that. You know what I mean? I started to get offended by it.
Mm.
Which I told you, like I've been told you, which I still think about it, which is changing my name because I want my own identity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Which that wouldn't change family things and people be like, oh yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. I know some parts that I missed in there. You got it over there.
Yeah, it's some parts. I mean, because just going back to like, do you want to keep elaborating on your dad, or did you want to just take it to a point of like when I'm just go like that when people see people dealing with
Oh
the
yes.
numbness, why do family just like?
Oh yeah. So in that whole situation and me looking back on how I can just live and survive in trauma,
Mhm.
I was telling you, it was a lot of the times which some of my underlying beef with my daddy was just like, yo, dog. I always wanted to ask him, was like, yo, dog, like, why did you used to always like put, not always, but in those times, why did you put your hands on my mama, right? That was the thing that I always wanted to ask him, right? And when I used to think about it, and when I used to think about it, and when I used to play through asking him, right, it would always bring a lot of anger and aggression out of me, right?
Right.
And around that time when it was bringing out a lot of anger and aggression in me, that's when the church pastor preached about forgiveness and the 3 different types of forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after receiving that, I started to think about it and feel it, and I'm just like, well, this is bringing a lot of anger out of me and whatever won't. And I was like, yo, dog. In which Duke asked me, like, what if you don't get the response that you were looking for out of that? Like, what if it's not received well?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, me being me, I'm like, I'm gonna make him give me my answer that I want. I'm gonna make him answer it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which is mad toxic.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I was like, that's. Eventually, it got to the point to where I was like, it's not for me to ask that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's for me to. Really, it's not even for me to understand. But I eventually got to understand it and seeing and drawing back from his childhood to understand how and why he could do that and why he was doing that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then also within going that way, it was just like, yo, dog, it's a lot of the times that I would be like, yo, dog, I always wanted to ask her family. I always wanted to ask my mama's family, like, why y'all ain't never step in? Why y'all ain't never try to save her from that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it always left me in a question of why in that area, because it was just like, that's my most traumatic times, right? That's why I say I don't like being around a lot of yelling. It made me feel uncomfortable. It make me feel like, oh, what's going on, right? Because anytime I heard yelling, it was either with pain, aggression. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So within wanting to ask that, I'm just like, yo, dog, that was my biggest thing, is like, why was that allowed to go on? Not understanding, which it goes back into communication, which that was the block for the longest for me, is communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of things wasn't communicated.
Right. It wasn't. It was just, take it in stride, keep going. But other than that, it just that takes me back to, even though I was took, it happened, and I'm just thankful that I was able to forgive just as well as him. He had to forgive me because basically we grew up together. Like,
y'all had y'all high school
grew up,
love.
grew up. When I say me and you grew up together, no, me and your dad grew up together, like literally. So it's just like, I mean, I just thank God for just allowing me to forgive him for anything, but I didn't ever want to hold no grudge over just because that happened. You know what I'm saying? We both didn't know no better. I'm not taking on like, okay, I'd be like, oh, you just accepting it and it happened. Well, it happened. So I still had to forgive him for, he didn't know no better, and then the people that was around us evidently didn't know no better because they sure wasn't saying, stopping there, shit. But it was just still at the same token. He even learned. He had to go about a different route about it, but I mean, it was just like, hey, I know I was wrong, this and that and the third didn't have to happen, this and that. I used to even question, like, but like I said again, if I seen it coming up, I didn't say it was okay, but yeah, it happened, Like we can. I could have said like some trigger to trigger him to do it, not taking on responsibilities, not saying it's okay to get hands put on you. But all I'm saying is us coming up is just like basically brother sibling fighting, but not really like that. But
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, okay, I know I caused some of the tension on bringing that on too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I said again, I'm just thankful that I'm able to forgive and be forgave in life because, you know, people make mistakes. You know, we gotta forgive them for what we don't know and what we didn't know, but now we
Yeah.
know. And but yeah, so it's just, you know, and I just feel like, you know, at the same token, people didn't want to step in because of the security that yo daddy gave everybody. Like they know that he'll do anything for anybody,
Yeah.
basically. So I didn't think they wanted to break that tie with them or make it like, oh, okay, I'm angry at you, you did this, you did that, or I'm just gonna stay out of that. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
y'all thing, you know, which
Yeah.
was cool too. I mean, I respect that. But at the same time, still like pull them to the side or, you know, or pull me to the side as a woman or but
Uh-huh.
that just wasn't there.
Hey, I forgot to say this. So the funniest thing, it wasn't funny at the time, but the funniest thing that I still laugh to myself about today, right, is when we was with you know, and my when my daddy was locked up, and he was locked up when Michael Jackson had died. Which I ain't never told Derek this, but it was one time when Michael Jackson had died, right? And
Well, it was only one time because he only died once. So yeah.
you know.
I know what
So,
you're saying.
anyways, I had a dream about something happening to my daddy in jail like a few days before that, right? So, anyways, Derek runs to me full of life. He like, yo, dog, your daddy just died. So I sprint off somewhere to hide and I'm crying. And this dude go, what you crying for? And he was like, Michael Jackson just died. And I'm just like, this nigga. Then shot all my emotions, dog.
Yeah, they got you like, what? I done let off a whole wow.
Yeah. So I know it's some other spots that I missed in that. Do you want to touch on the spots that I missed on?
Well, let's see. As far as no. Oh, I know you touched in like changes, like when your faith, like through whatever faith being tested, like
oh, that was touching into the reasons of why I extend and I still extend grace and understand into that situation of the of my situation, right? And the anger, because I can understand like just within listening and understanding conversation with Duke and understanding she never had a loss or anything drastic as far as feeling like it's an attack or a shake for her. You know what I mean? To make her have that moment of, you know what I mean? Because my shaking and my questioning and my basically being angry at God was the loss of my uncle, right? Because it was just like, dang, this is the first thing to hit.
That was some that was a whole different thing.
That was the first thing that ever hit that close, right? Yeah. Which is what made my sprint and my run away from God and my questioning and my, you know what I mean? So with her, like anything that is like crazy is just like, well, I correlate it and just be like, well, things feel like it changed after the surgery. That's what I always say. That's what I always give grace on. It's like, oh, things changed after that, right? And it's just like, that's why I always like you say my wish me wells is I don't know. I guess people don't receive me wishing them well too good. But it's like I genuinely do wish that well because I know what that journey of being like, well, I don't know if I'm secure in that, right? I don't know if I'm really being watched over, if something like this can touch me. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. I feel like I offer a lot of understanding because it's just like, dog, I felt it. I went through it, or I went through something close to it, or I felt pain. I felt hurt. You know what I mean? So that's why a lot of times like, I can't be mad about a lot of things. It's like, dang, I don't know why you acting like this way towards me, but I understand your pain. And so yeah, like the shaking faith and all of that is just like I can understand it, but I learned it within me running from God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So even with that, let's see. Uh, that just goes back to how would I do it? Where do I want to go with that?
What is
Oh
it?
well, no. Okay, you said about that, but oh, the honey house prop to where you
Oh
said
yeah,
when you
yeah. Just moving in fear, but that more so went with that. That was supposed to be with. I really wanted to touch on this, basically fear, which we will touch on it in the future. Is the heavy manifestation culture, right? And people
mm-hmm,
thinking that just them throwing out words is just gonna do whatever they're gonna do, right?
mm-hmm,
But it's like you got to be working towards it and speaking those positive things into your life, right?
mm-hmm,
And um and I was talking about how just jumping out and doing it and you being frozen in fear and being stuck in fear. And I think about me being stuck in just halted in fear to when I was younger and my grandma took us to the haunted house and it was time to go in but not really participate, just walk through the doors to get into the haunted house.
mm-hmm,
And I'm just like, yo dog, like nah, I ain't going in there, like really about to bust out in tears.
mm-hmm,
And I just couldn't move. And a lot of the times I know we had our conversations about like, which I feel like I'm in my time of like move, which I am moving, right? And
mm-hmm.
not trying to miss, I'll call it the train. And you were saying, I don't know if it was earlier or yesterday, you was like, yeah, like, gotta make you move one of two ways when you scared to move, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really all that is. But a lot of people just can't get themselves to move.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean it's just the mind, the mind trying to shake them and you know what I'm saying, make them think like putting the fear to I'm sorry, that was a
All right,
message.
guys, we had a little disruption, and now I'm joking, but
Sorry, that was a birthday message that came through. Thanks everybody who's sending all the shouts out for my birthday. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much, so dearly. But yeah, so it's just the same thing of like once you just that's like when I said I close my eyes and just see what happens, I just kind of go for it. But then when it's time to not make a move, you will basically know you got to kind of sit and wait. And I know that's been on topics that I've been hearing, no matter if it's sermons or sometimes you got to sit down too. Sometimes you just
oh,
can't keep jumping to, you know what I'm saying? That's not fair because you didn't set back for a little bit to see the outcome of what's next.
nah.
Well,
So I also said it because, you know, our last word that we received at church,
mm-hmm,
it's a spot in there where Lady J has said, basically me constantly hearing "be big," right? Which I told you
mm-hmm,
the first time I heard it was at a guy from the church, a friend from the church, a brother from the church.
mm-hmm,
Um, he had, it felt, I always feel like he be seeing me, he be looking through me, right?
mm-hmm,
And just randomly it hit me with like, he just said like a lot of times people think like being humble means being small amongst people, right?
mm-hmm.
And he was like, how can you be small when we serve a large, powerful, and mighty God? He was like, so in return, we're gonna be large, right?
Right.
And that was like a year ago that I received that. And I always just been thinking about it, thinking about it. So then fast forward until Sunday and hearing it again, it's just like, dang. So then it had me thinking, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna talk about how for so long I was in fear and just in fear from being just told like, yo dog, like your personality is too big, and basically being told that my personality is offending people. So a lot of the times I shrunk within, right? Which is why
Mm-hmm.
I sent you this song, Light by Big Sean and Jeremiah. which is why I put it on my story too, especially the part he was like, for so long I've been trying to find a light at the end of the tunnel until I realized the light was inside. He said, so lately I've been trying to get my insides outside, which is really actually what I am doing on this podcast, is trying to get my inside, my stories out, because a lot of people, which is why fast forward, rewinding back to why I'm like, why do a lot of people suffer in silence? Right. Yeah. And then a lot of times, like walking through life, people are like, oh man, why you smiling? Whoa. And of course, like I'm smiling because I'm grateful in a lot of instances, but it's also like people like, well, I know I'm going through, you got to be going through some things, right? Which is why like I'll catch y'all up on all of that eventually, but it's just a lot of things layer up on top of everything that I talk about, right? Because it's my life.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with hearing it, it made me really want to talk about being stuck and stricken in fear and not really acting and doing and won't, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times I would always be like, yo, dog, I just want to do things and succeed without being seen. I want to be in the background. I want to, you know what I mean? But I got to work and be seen to actually be able to fall back and let those things work out loud to be in the background eventually. You know what I mean?
Work through you, yeah.
So yeah, that was the thing on fear. It clicked.
yeah. But that's good though. I mean, that's what a lot of people are facing anyways, you know. Some people can step out and do whatever else, but then in most areas it's fear. Like
what else? What else did I miss on the notes? What else?
Let's see here. Oh, well, it goes back to like it can go back to childhood and go back to just feeling used. It can go back to your last situation and like feeling used up, like or done, or I think we was in a different.
Was that when I had said growing up and listening and hearing my dad be like, oh, I ain't got it, right? You talking about that? When I was just understanding like why, like in the time I would just be like, why this dude lying and saying he ain't got it, right? And then growing up and understanding like he was saying that just because he like, yeah, I ain't got it. Mainly just to see if like how that response of him telling somebody that assumes that he got it, right? Just to either confirm like, oh, this is just a what can I do for you type relationship, right? Or you know what I mean? Yeah. And it also made me question and think, when I was thinking about it in the moment this week, I was like, what if people went around like, hey, yo, dog, like, can you help me in this instance? Rather, it's not money, right? But it's more so a feeling like, hey, can you help me heal in this area? And a person be like, hey, yo, I ain't got it. Like, what would the response be in that? Would it be like, which it goes into understanding and being aligned with something spiritually, right? And understanding that man ain't gonna help you out of those situations. Like, granted, if you'd have gave that individual or a person money, it wouldn't really help you out of what you're going through. It'd just be a band-aid, right? And it'd be it'd be right back. So say time. And I know you said feel used up. I mean, I don't know who I get that from, if it's you or him, rather than it's like overextending and help pushing somebody else's dreams or wants, and you know what I mean? But really right now, how I feel on feeling used up, I feel like it's my fault, because I should have just, it sounds weird, I should just have been selfish and focused on self.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what they call it. When you focus on yourself, that's what people say, oh, you're being selfish, and it's really not that, but call it whatever you want. It is what it is. But basically, yeah, it'd be a point in time that sometimes things, I mean, you do feel like you're used up, and I mean, depending on what situation it is, but
a lot of the times when you feel used up is when you feel, it's when you do and overexert and you don't feel like you get an appreciation.
Right. That's basically, yeah, perfectly said. Yeah, and then, you know, people get tired of that. Like, they come to a conclusion like, dang, I'm tired. Am I going to just keep doing this to myself, or allow this to happen to me and nobody really not caring, like, how much they're just sucking from me? You know what I'm saying? So,
I
Yeah,
can't even
I
speak to
mean,
that because mm, I don't think I do that. But hey, if you
yeah,
that
I guess I
person,
do too.
comment please.
It's like, I
Yeah.
guess I mean, it have happened to me, like, and I'm
Nah,
for
I'm
sure that
I'm talking about the side of you saying when you was like running back, what you said exactly. I can't say it verbatim. I can't repeat it in exact word.
what I just said, or what was you talking about?
Yeah, because you was on your trail and of saying getting used all up and people receiving and you know what I mean. But if you don't
No, it's
remember, I
just
don't remember.
basically like, once you I'm gonna say, for me individually, it can go from anywhere in my life to where, when I feel like, okay, I've had enough. I feel like I've been used up. Not saying somebody didn't use me for my money or nothing like that. It could just be for my time. It can be my all the input that I put out. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
once I feel like I didn't drained, or feel like the water gone, the well dry, then I I cannot. I cannot. I have to take myself away from it, because that way I can replenish. Because once you feel like you've already just been used up, it's just like, what more of me is gonna be left for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that goes back to the selfish stuff, but it's not really selfish. You just have to, it's more of self-care instead of selfish, so
Yeah.
it's not fair when you feel like you're used up. I'll just say it like that. In whatever, any situation that you feel like you're used up in. So,
Yeah.
but it's all on how you deal with it, how you get yourself back to rewater your plant and keep going. And oh shoot, now you got the
That's a plane. That's a
it's
plane.
the new in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I had to make sure they wasn't trying to start Vanguard over me. That's what I was trying to make sure.
Man. But
But
yeah, that's, yeah. What about who was it? Oh yeah, we basically touched on, you know, some good
you,
things,
I feel like you over there looking like, do he really want to talk about that? I feel like that's how you looking at it.
No, because it looked like we basically did touch up on everything, as far as it was kind of around about everywhere, but we still touched up on everything that we basically spoke on. And
And
yeah, because yeah, and then just like going back to that, just elaborating on that, okay, why do you, like, when people see a person, like, I'm gonna say looking happy every day, but basically just, grateful to be alive and still pressing through, and not so much that's like bringing your problems where you go or something like that, making it like that. Who wants to do that? But just be a joy and a light to somebody else who actually just wear all their problems on their sleeve. But don't let nobody stop you from smiling, even though you could be going through something or
mm-hmm.
dealing with something. Don't let, just because somebody else is feeling crappy or not happy, crappy or not happy. No, it's not. If they feeling that way, that don't have nothing to do with you. You got to still just. But if they ask you how or why or how do you always, and they're not gonna ask you that anyway. It's just like, dang, every time I see you, you got a grin on your face, or you think life is all fun and games, don't you? I'm like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
not fun and games. It's just like, I'd rather smile than not be. Who wants to look mopey? Who wants to look dopey? Who wants
Mm-hmm.
not? Who doesn't want to be happy? Like I say, every time when those eyes pop open daily, that's all the reasons to smile. Like, period. So
all, all I
just
know.
like today on my birthday, I'm ready to do my makeup and get over and get on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that the topic was good. And then I just want to also throw this in there. Like, any and every birthday I've had up until this year, it feels different to me. Um, your dad will be the very first. When I say the very first, nobody ever beat him to telling me happy birthday, no matter if we was in a relationship, no matter if we was apart, no matter if we was mad at each other. He made it his main focus to tell me moi happy birthday. So he always kept up. He was a stand-up dude. He always stood in what he believed and never changed that part of it. never changed the part of who he loved. Could nobody tell him that. So I just wanted to say that, like, rest in peace, DJ, and thank you, because I already hear you from the ethers, honey. Thank you. But yeah, so, and everybody else, I just want to keep saying that. Everybody else, all the birthday wishes, birthday gifts.
Y'all see how she
I
changed
thank
into a full
y'all.
birthday princess at this?
Podcast on my B day. And yeah, so triggers. That just it was a trigger that touched me. So I just had to speak on that real quick. So
listen, all I
send the
know,
shouts out.
all I know to end this, all I know is on that second night, I wanted to go over there and knock on that door at your daughter's and hear her with the Rukin. I wanted to hear her with the Rukin. But yeah.
But yeah, well, shout out to Bree for inspiring her brother to open up about his ways and his way of dealing with, you know, his mourn. And he's still dealing. He's still dealing. You're still dealing. We're all still dealing. The whole entire family is probably still dealing. But we just, you know,
she inspired me. She inspired me to give her the ethers. That's what it was. Because it was like, you ain't about to question me.
Yeah, but, and just to open up to those, you know, open up to those things, you know. So those are people who are concerned and caring and still wants to know where your heart lies.
All right, birthday girl. Like all right, birthday girl. You want to wrap this one?
I want everybody to tap back in on next weekend. Now let's no, but I want to thank everybody, whoever tuned in, whoever peeked in. You know, it's more to come on the More Than podcast. And Chef Boy Basquiat brought us on down with all the good sunshines for the day. And yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank you. All right, y'all. We about to make ourselves look presentable for her birthday tonight. All the pictures and all of that stuff.
Come on, get out my moo-moo. all the pictures, get out her moo-moo.
All the pictures will be on all of her social media. So look out for those. All right, y'all. Catch y'all next week.
All right, peace. Thank y'all.